This is the coffee coach.
Right here.
What's a coffee coach?
I'm like a little coffee reference book that you get to keep in your pocket.
That's very cute.
Yeah, you make me really tiny and put me in your pocket.
I love it.
Yeah.
We've recently rebranded Will Frith, and we're trying out this new internet thing. I don't know if you've heard, but you can actually attract and serve people who like need what you have.
Okay.
And but you can't just sit there and expect them to find you, knock on your door here in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam.
Right. It's kind of like having a store on a busy street.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to open the door.
You have to like put a sign out there.
So, a lot of people contact you and contact us.
Yeah.
Because they're interested in what we do, which is cool. Thank you.
This is one of the things we do.
We hang out on a Sunday and talk about work. What do we do? You want to tell us what you do? Oh, hi, cat.
Well, we have
two cats.
We have two cats. Lionel is the concerned guy. He's always got a concerned look on his face.
Gerard's over here. He's a little grumpy.
Yeah. Or maybe just like ready to play. I'm not sure which face it is.
He's a very nice. These are nice guys. These are nice. Really nice guys.
Yeah.
So, what do you do in your life day to day?
Well, I have, along with you,
mm-hmm.
a coffee company called Building Coffee, and we sell roasted coffee beans.
That's true.
And we support people who buy them.
Right. And I have a cafe that I started and that we now own together.
Yep.
Called Bell, and we serve building coffee.
Yep.
Among other things, and it was a project that I undertook as a designer by myself, which was my first top to bottom to top. And so Will's a coffee professional of like 15 years, and I'm a ding dong who just keeps doing different stuff and having fun. And and we're married.
And I'm a ding dong too.
So sweet. Ding dong in my pocket.
No, that sounds wrong.
No, wait, isn't a ding dong a pastry? Like American?
Yeah, that's like
right?
Little Debbie or Hostess. I forget.
Don't put ding dongs in your pockets because they'll get smushed.
Yeah.
Unless you're able to eat smushed stuff, which I'm not. I'm like,
I mean, you totally could. Like, just grab a spoon and open one end and just.
Or it's kind of like that episode of Friends where Joey and Rachel are fighting over the cheesecake that they found in the hallway.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, it's Chandler. And they're like fighting in the hallway over the last of the cheesecake, and it hits the ground, and they're like eating it off the ground. And Joey shows up and he takes a fork out of his pocket and he says, "What are we eating?" And like joins them eating on the ground.
That's pretty much the same thing.
Also, what we do is watch American television. We live in Vietnam. Neither of us are from Vietnam, although this guy is more connected to Vietnam than I am.
Okay. Yeah.
Tell us more about that.
My mom, she's from Vietnam.
Right.
But she's moved to the States.
Cool. She's a very cool person. We are very lucky to have such a cool mom.
Yeah, she's rad.
So this podcast is a sort of tiny version of what happens a lot in our life together, which is I'll be like, "Hey," and I have some kind of question. I don't actually have to pay this guy because we live together. That would sort of be like him paying me to do his emotional labor, which I do, but you do my coffee labor.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty fair exchange, I think.
Yeah, I hope
so in this scenario, I represent the coachee.
Coachees.
It's like Coachella.
No, Coachees is much cooler.
And I'm like, oh my God, how do I? And this dude has every answer that I've ever questioned. He's got, and even if he doesn't, he'll be like, "Let's look it up," or "I'll do some research." So I very much benefit from having a free consultant, a free coach who I live with. So last time we talked about water purification and remineralization.
Hmm.
And one of the things I want to talk about today is dialing in espresso.
Oh,
Who does it? Why is it important? Because we have this interesting perspective where we are coffee roasters, but we're also a cafe. And these are separate businesses that are sort of linked. And what links us is our coffee.
yep.
And we often have conversations about dialing in, about to what extent should the roaster support the bar. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about that. Who should be dialing in every day?
The barista, the one who comes in first in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
um, and and then dialing in after that happens throughout the day.
Oh, okay.
And so, and luckily, the baristas who follow the opener don't tend to have to go through the same rigorous process. It's really just making small adjustments here and there, just watching your numbers and making sure things stay on track.
So to get consistency, should your opener be the same person as often as possible?
Not really. Maybe if you're a new cafe or if you're new to this whole process, then yeah, putting one person in charge of it for a little while can help you really get things off the ground and to really like start setting up protocols that work for that cafe.
So how do we know who's qualified to be that? What do we call this? Dialer in?
Dial inner. No,
Mm,
this doesn't work.
dial any?
It's definitely an Audi.
Okay.
Um, it really has to be someone who cares a lot about the way the espresso tastes. So if one of your staff expressed a lot of interest and really like just goes in and tastes everything they possibly can, you make a shot and you're like, oh man, this one's off. And they dive for it and they're like, yeah, let me taste too.
Mm,
Even though you just said it was bad
yeah.
or wrong, they want to know. So they have to be somewhat inquisitive. They have to also not be afraid to taste things they don't enjoy. And then they also have to at least be on their way to a more accurate palate. And then they have to have an understanding of all the contributing factors that lead to the flavor of the espresso.
Okay, but how is somebody going to know all of this? Now this like moves into the second part of my question. Like the roasting company that I'm being supplied by,
Mm-hmm.
is it their responsibility to help me maintain quality on the bar by helping this person become that person?
Um, well, for one, I think it's a matter of the level of care. So if you, as an owner operator, really care about getting the perfect espresso out every time, then it's your responsibility to get the resources to
Okay,
make
but
that
why would I
happen.
not want to care about getting the right espresso out every time?
Well, I mean, some cafe owners have a wider tolerance for espresso.
Like it's got to be good enough. It's not.
Good,
I don't
like,
want to
yeah,
ruin anybody's
yeah.
day.
So I think from good enough to perfect is a really big range,
Yeah.
and it's a good range to
You
figure out
you
your
actually
place in.
talk about this a lot because here in Saigon we have a lot of perfection seeking behavior
Hmm.
in specialty coffee. And you aren't, I think, like by any means lazy
Right.
or lackadaisical when it comes to quality on the bar at our cafe.
Correct.
But some people are really surprised by that.
Well, maybe because it's like it's their own paradigm that they're like imposing on to their idea of me.
The coffee master.
Right. So, because they call me that here, it's weird,
It's
but
very weird.
um, because I have this position, they think that whatever their ideas of the perfect coffee or perfection or whatever they like applies to them, that they can like kind of globalize that
So
taste.
they're like
And they're like,
projecting this
right, like
ridiculous standard onto everything you
I
do.
really love this particular coffee I had at this cafe. So that must be perfection. And everything else after that has to taste like that.
And like that's cool if that's your thing.
It's okay.
But I don't have enough hours in the day
Right.
to,
So what's your taste,
yeah.
right? Like, what do you want it to be? And really, like, taste a lot of espressos, go to other cafes and figure out like where you want to sit in this kind of spectrum of espresso. And because there's a whole lot of different
Well, and
kinds that are possible.
I'm a sort of different, maybe type of cafe owner
Hmm.
because coffee is important, but also like I am not, nor do I want to become a coffee expert. Sort of like how I hire a marketing person
Right.
because I don't want to be a marketer. Like I'm a
Right.
furniture designer and a manager of
Okay. So it's about responsibility. Who's responsible for it, right?
I suppose
So
actually that's me, right? Because
you are, but you can't be responsible for every single damn thing, right? Because it's just there's too many
say that
things.
again.
You can't be responsible for every single thing, right?
Can't I?
One person only has so many
But if
hours.
I don't do it,
If you
nobody's
don't
going to
do
do
it,
it.
well, then you've got an HR problem. So you've got to hire with this in mind, like what potential do these potential staff have?
But what
Like
about these
where do
like
they excel?
what about like Bear Pond in Tokyo?
Yeah.
Or like maybe this is just a Japanese model. This like izakaya
Yeah, they
single.
really appreciate the small, the single, kind of the unscalable. If it's unscalable, it'll probably do really well in Japan. Um, so, like Bear Pond, for example, the guy is an obsessive, but he also doesn't have designs to grow his business to a huge point.
Right,
He's singularly focused on
right.
making his style of espresso
Well,
for his community.
this brings us to kind of the reason the coffee coach is even a thing. It's because we can't scale a person. We cannot multiply Will Frith and copy and paste him so that he can address all of
And
the
even if
needs.
you could, I don't know if I'd consent. That's just weird.
I mean, I would love it because I like you so much.
Yeah,
More of you would be great and cute.
it would get awkward. Like, who gets bedtime privileges?
Interesting, right?
So it's just weird. And
You're right.
is it cheating if it's not the original
If it's
one?
your doppelganger,
Yeah,
well, how would I know which one is which?
right. See, that creates all kinds of problems. I don't
Interesting.
think duplicating people is a good idea.
Well, it's also not possible yet. Maybe
I think it's
several years
possible,
in the
but it's only
future.
secretly possible.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can't scale Wilfred.
Yep.
We can't rely on billable hours as our only form of income because we only have so many hours.
Right.
So the only other level we have to pull is like raising our rates, which A, we should probably do, but B, that's not how we want to do this. That's
Right.
not how we want to scale the business, is by working more hours, right? And so in order to do that, you have to hire people.
Yep.
And that's terrifying.
And you have to, I mean, it's a risk.
Yeah.
You have to acknowledge the fact that hiring people, doing any damn thing, is going to involve some level of risk. How tolerant of you are you of that risk? And are you able to recognize potential in people? And that's another risk that you put on it, because you're imposing your idea of someone's future on them, but it should be beneficial to them and
Well, and
their abilities.
I've actually learned this because there came a certain point in my like professional life where I was running 2 companies and teaching college. And it was like, oh, I'm going to get sick and collapse in a heap. And there was actually one weekend where I went to a hotel because I had to finish writing this course for this. I was teaching a class up in Hanoi. And there were so many things flying through the air, and I was like ducking and, like Mission Impossible under the wire kind of bullshit. And I checked into this hotel to get a bunch of work done over a long weekend. And I just burst into tears as soon as I closed the door. And I was like, I cannot scale myself to the extent that is necessary.
Yeah.
I have to give up some of the tasks.
Yeah.
Why was that so hard?
Now, imagine if you were like a baker who couldn't delegate, who couldn't like trust other people to help. And suddenly you've got to mix 10 kilograms of dry ingredients and also wash dishes.
You would have to keep your business very small.
Something is really impossible about that, right? Can you wash dishes with wet hands and mix dry ingredients, right? So it has to come down to like things you need to delegate, right? Washing dishes is not a super high level task. So that's the obvious, like the easy, obvious choice, right? And you like hire somebody who's really good at washing dishes or really loves to do it. Or someone who will do anything for what you're paying them, right? And so you just have to put a little bit of trust into the people that you hire. And, you know, put them through whatever questions and vetting you need to feel the comfort that you need to hand them that part of your business.
Also, you just have to do it because like everybody presents really well. Maybe not everybody, but most people present really well in an interview. And I'm like, yeah, you seem cool. The vibes are great. Let's go. And then they may end up being a terrible fit. You just have to. There's so many reasons to try to maintain control.
But that's a risk. That's the risk. You have to try. And you get better at it when you do it more. So what if you hire the wrong people the first go round? Those are all things I hope you're taking notes about, or you've got a good memory and are learning from, so you know which questions to ask or what types of approaches to take when you're interviewing the next batch.
I mean, I really have lowered my standards, which sounds like a bad thing. But it's not. I mean, I don't mean that
I don't even know if it's lowering your standards. You're shifting your standards into the new reality, right? And so, like, you have these ideas. There is no reality before you start up. And you just have to base it on your ideas, gut feelings, experience, advice, and just go for it. Right? So you're not really lowering your standards. You're aligning your standards with the reality at hand. And so, like, I wouldn't see it as a lowering. And so
that's because you're not a perfectionist who stays up all night thinking about the financial projections. Which is why this is actually a good point. People keep telling me this, and I think it's true, and I think we take it for granted. We're very well matched as business partners. Also happened to stay married for quite a long time too. So I think generally speaking, pretty well matched. But I can't do everything, and neither can you. And like, I think every business needs a Kel and a Will. Somebody who's like neurotically obsessed with details and wants to get the CRM migration done. And then somebody who's obsessed with the product and wants to make sure that like the, you know, offerings and assortment is really well balanced.
Yeah. You remember the first couple of years when I was running the business.
It was a terrible idea.
Don't let someone like me run the whole thing on their own.
Well, don't let somebody like me run the whole thing on their own either.
It shifts away from the vision really quickly. So I'm such a people pleaser that I approached every potential new account with this whole suite of potential, like of possibilities.
We can make you your own blend. Me crazy. Listen to this.
Roast it to the level you want it to.
This is bullshit.
I want you to find your coffee.
He would send people out. He would be like, okay, we thank you for coming to us for your coffee needs. And I want you to go out and taste a bunch of different coffees and then come tell me which one is your favorite. You're sending customers to our competitors.
That's fine. You should be able to do that. You should have the trust in yourself and your brand enough that people can go out and experience the world.
Immediately, no.
Yeah, I mean, that's... I don't know. I think there's a sort of condescension in that, like holding them hostage and not letting them taste everything is really just kind of like, it just shows that you don't trust your own brand to hold them
from a business perspective, from a business development perspective. It creates so much waste. And I'm not even like Lean Six Sigma certified here. So please don't expect me to get too far into the weeds with continuous improvement, but it's not a great customer experience for them to come to you and say, tell me which coffee to drink. And you go and say, tell me which coffee to drink. You tell me which coffee to make. And the customer's like, man, I don't know. I'm a baker. I'm just trying to start a restaurant. I have like 11 suppliers that I need to meet with this week.
So I like nuance. So there are people who have a very specific idea of what coffee tastes like.
Right.
And if I am off the mark there, I risk losing that customer months down the line after doing a whole lot of work.
True. But people come to your store
Mm-hmm.
and say, do you have a thing? You say, yes, here's the thing. Take it. This is the thing for you.
But coffee is not widgets. Like an iPhone is an iPhone. All you do is select one of the three. Coffee is not that type of experience.
It is when you're trying to sell it.
If I sell a whole suite of smartphones, I need to figure out a few things before I recommend this range.
But
to
you were giving people a bespoke smartphone. You were like, tell me which smartphones you like, and then I'm going to reverse engineer your most perfect smartphone.
Yeah.
And the customer would be like, okay, well, I mean, I really just need to get my shop open.
Yeah,
and I've got...
that's like fewer than half of the customers. The rest of them that I approach this way really love that experience, and they're still our customers today. And
now we have like 17 espresso blends because everybody has their own.
So, yeah. So, long story short.
Remember how I was saying we're such a good match because we've got all of these different...
Long story short is like we don't have any business imposing our singular idea on the business. We need a balance of some sort that brings it into the real world so real people can experience it.
It's true. That's true.
And so if it were up to her, we would create 2 blends and people would choose
6.
A or B.
6 blends.
Okay. 6 blends, and people would just have that to choose from. Nothing changes.
True.
And from my perspective, that's boring. I'm only going to buy from that roaster for maybe a year before I move on to somebody who has a more dynamic range.
Right.
So
you're also a coffee person.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, as a like retailer, I just want consistency in the product, and I want to bring that. I want the end result to be something that delights my customers and that they can come back again and again for.
And I see all these old world, and by old world, I mean mostly like famous Italian brands,
like Second Wave,
that have their 4 to 6 blends that they've had for 30 years.
Right.
And those brands themselves have a big layer of dust on them as a result.
Well, I don't say that we can't have any single origins. I just say that our blend should be evergreen. Our blend should be, it should be like Cheerios. I know what Cheerios taste like. I want Cheerios when I want Cheerios.
Yeah.
And like sometimes Honey Nut Cheerios, into it. Sometimes, I don't know, what other Cheerios are there?
They don't have many things.
Okay, fine. But like other Cheerios, right? Sometimes I want cornflakes, into it. I very rarely try new things. But when I do, I'm willing to pay more to take the risk. And I'm willing to shop around just a little bit to make sure that I'm getting something novel.
But what you're talking about is a brand called Kellogg's that has more than 20 different types of cereal for every mood.
True. But I might go outside of the Kellogg's moment.
Maybe.
I think we're getting a little...
Well, I mean,
far from our premise.
To sum up, you need balance. You need some dynamics. You need some things that are a little bit more rigid in order to make this, I guess, consumable by the public. You want to please as broad a swath of the market as you can without just pandering to everyone.
But you also need to sustain a business.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking in terms of like, ridiculous projections for growth and like, let's get into the exit strategy. I'm talking about let's make payroll. Let's, make decisions about what's necessary this month. But I just need to sell coffee.
Yeah. So as you can see, that's where her priorities are.
Keeping
and
the business
where my
open.
priorities are. And, on the question that you originally asked, who should be dialing in the espresso?
which also became a question about hiring and letting people grow into new expectations.
Basically, you need to be the kind of leader who creates leaders.
Word.
And finding those people takes a little bit of searching,
and
takes a few stumbles.
Also when they leave to start their own thing or to go lead their own team,
you have
can't
to support them. Yeah, support them, be happy for them. You were the beginning of their wonderful rise through their professional development. And
Exactly.
that's like a really cool thing.
Right.
You know, like all of these, when I say famous here, you know that I mean coffee famous, so not really famous. All these famous baristas who have won championships and things, they started with a company that really supported them and
Right.
gave them what they needed
Right.
to succeed. And those companies at a certain point can't hang on to someone like that
Mm-hmm.
because there's no place for them in the day-to-day business. They become just kind of like a marketing shill. There's a lot of bad things that can happen if the company tries to hang on to that talent. And so taking the other approach of really encouraging and supporting their growth and maybe even investing in the small roasting company.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard half a dozen stories about these competitors who win a big thing and they want to start their own roasting company. And the company they're working for before says, I want to invest. How about you just do all of those things for your brand under our roof,
Mm.
and we continue to support you with the resources and
But now you're
suppliers.
also a shareholder.
Now you're also a shareholder.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
there's lots of different ways it can look.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the I guess the continuous thread is it has to be supported, and there has to be something buried in your vision that supports growing new leaders in the coffee industry.
Yeah.
And so you, whatever that means to you, find the people who have those traits or the closest traits to it, and you put them in charge of something.
Right.
So like person A, you're in charge of cakes. Like the quality of our cakes needs to be at this level, and I need you to taste them, make sure they're staying consistent, try the new samples, figure out what we should rotate in and out. You're responsible for that,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
you check in with them, right? And when they have something cool they want to put on the menu, then they present it to you.
Right.
And so you're still kind of where the buck stops. The decisions are still being made by you and according to your vision. But now you have a little bit of ease because somebody's doing the things that more people can do and bringing you the thing that you can do.
Right.
And so the person who's dialing in, yeah, keep it the same opening barista for 5 days a week so they can really like build this ability to dial in the espresso.
Yeah.
And then with training and support from the wholesale roasting company, they can work together to kind of inform and encourage the rest of the team so
Right.
they can dial in. And so really it's everybody's job.
Mm-hmm.
If you taste an espresso at your cafe and it's a little too something or another, talk with the baristas about it. Don't make it a thing where you have to like call them into the office and sit them down. And it doesn't need to be like that. It should be a lot more casual.
Right.
And you taste it together. You talk about this cup, right? And then there are a few like tips and tricks. Once you find like the range, like maybe the espresso is always tasting good when it's between 23 and 28 seconds. And, who knows why, but that's just where it's good. So you train the baristas to aim for the center. And when it starts to drift one way or the other, they make an adjustment.
And at what point do you need to go back to your roaster and be like, we need more training, or something tastes weird, or like that feedback loop needs to be established by whom?
It needs to be presented and introduced by the roaster.
Okay.
So it depends on the level and like the bandwidth that they have to support each and every crew that they're
let's
selling
talk
coffee
about
to.
your coffee roasting company.
Okay. So when we approach someone, we offer the ability for them to send their staff to us and get barista basics. And then that is just kind of like the beginning of like sort of a broader, like ask me anything session. So the person who trains your staff becomes sort of the mentor or the coach for the staff.
Which is great for their professional development and retention.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
And so they can, with the help of the trainer at the roasting company, they can kind of build themselves up into the shape of whatever being a barista is to them.
The trainer at our wholesale company is like such a huge asset and like such a great I mean, we've been working with him forever. And so
Yep.
such a great asset and such a wonderful person,
Yeah.
who I've seen like really grow
A lot.
into that role to such an extent that I'm like, I can't imagine our business without him.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, Joanne.
Yeah.
I love him. Listen, it's been 30 minutes.
Oh, wow. That was quick.
Yeah. I don't want to belabor the point. Beleaguered.
Bully.
What does beleaguered mean?
Beleaguered. And it's got the word be in it.
Yeah.
It's got league.
Right.
It's got erd.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't want to bully. I think beleaguered is sort of like I'm a victim of something.
Or worn down. Or
there you go. Yeah. I don't want to belabor the point. Means let's shut up.
Maybe. So the points, coach.
Yeah.
Get yourself one.
I mean, really, you really ought to.
They can really help you through a lot of tough spots, and it's not as expensive a proposition as people might think.
I have a business mentor. She's the person that I am, what's the word, accountable to when it comes to my financials, because this guy doesn't give a shit, and neither does our investor. He's like, just tell me if it's on fire. And so I have somebody that I meet with regularly who brings me a lot of insight to the part of doing business that every business has to worry about, as far as the, subject matter expertise. I am not a coffee person, and I don't want to be one.
Right.
And so I need to partner with a coffee person or marry one.
You didn't marry a coffee person.
I really didn't. I married a stoner barista.
Yeah.
Who wanted to be a sculpture artist or something.
Yeah, I had a lot of different ideas, but
Still
I grew
do.
into one, and someone supported me in that.
Well, and we had a coaching session 2 weeks ago in which I think great question was asked. What's in 5 years? Like how will you know that you're fulfilling your sort of goals for yourself now, and it was delightful to hear you say that you wanted to, you can't imagine anything else capturing and maintaining your attention the way that coffee does.
That's true.
As subject matter. And that's really cool. I think a lot of people search for a long time for subject matter, or we could call it a career or whatever, that will continue to provide them with inspiration and excitement and meaning and opportunities for service and growth. So that's fucking great. Congrats on being great.
Oh, thanks.
At life. I personally don't need subject matter. I think that I can be.
Your subject is business and operations.
Yeah, that's not true. It's just what I'm doing right now. I don't get off on it the way you get like super into coffee. I think that what's great is that all people are different people. Coach Beard said that on Ted Lasso. And for now, what's engaging and interesting and inspiring, where I can make meaning, is as a leader in a company. I do not give a shit about business or operations. It's not at all interesting to me. What's interesting is like making a thing happen, and those are components of making a thing happen. Yeah. And so as long as I'm in the service of the thing happening, I can put up with some discomfort. And I'm learning and moving through discomfort as I master topics. That is not my subject matter. That is just the venue for my interest today.
Okay. Well.
Learning something new.
Yeah.
About your old lady. So nice to talk to you. Thanks for being here, being you.
Thanks.
I love you a lot.
Yeah, I love you too.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, microphone.
Yeah, you're great.
Yeah,
Bye, guys.